Hey guys, it's Keith again. How we met. I love to hear stories about how people met. I did when I was single, after I was married, and now that I'm a widower. I just love the stories of how people get together. So anyway, I wanted to share my story, and I hope you'll share yours down in the comments. Let me know how you met your the love of your life. And uh, just I don't know, it's just fun to share. It's just there's some great stories out there, and so I want to tell you mine. And some of this you're not going to believe. There's a little part of it that you're going to go, I don't know, I don't know. Even some of you believers in God are still going to be a little bit skeptical on this one part here that is a big part of it, but not, of course, the main part. But it's still important. Um, so I'll try to leave out some of the details. There's no use in some of the details, but back in '98, I was single, been single my whole life. I was about 30. I was 32, I guess, at that time. Yeah. And anyway, wanting to find the right person, of course, and have a family and this and that. So I was just about to give up. And so I got down on my knees that night and prayed, and I didn't do that a lot. I didn't get down on my knees and pray. I prayed a lot, but not on my knees. And so I got down on my knees that night and I said, Lord, I need, if you want me to be single, then I'm okay with it. And I don't know as I was completely truthful about that, but I was just like, I guess I needed to be free from it. So I was, quit looking at every woman, because I traveled a lot. So it was like every stewardess, every waitress, is it her? Is it going to be her? You know what? And just driving myself crazy, because I'd meet so many people. But now I don't meet anybody, but, but back then I met a lot of people. And anyway, so I just said, if I need to be single, if you want me that, then that's okay. And I felt in my spirit. I didn't, of course, hear it audibly, but I felt God speak to me that night. And this is the part you're going to be. Oh, I don't know about that, but anyway, it's my story, so I don't care if you believe it or not. But I said, he said, tomorrow your life's going to change. And I was like, for the better or worse? Change can be good, but it can be bad too. And he said, for the better. That's what I heard, for the better. And I was like, okay. Well, I had a trip that next day, traveling for work like I did every other week. And so I traveled that day. I had to fly to a location there, and of course, I ate at a restaurant. And what I decided to do that day is not. I just didn't look at any women that day. I really just didn't even pay them any mind. I wasn't rude. I wasn't. I didn't ignore them, but I wasn't like, checking everybody out. I guess you'd say. Sounds creepy at my age, but anyway, that's what we do. I don't know, but anyway, I didn't. Just like I'm just gonna be myself. I'm gonna be friendly and all that, but I'm not gonna try to figure it out. My life's gonna change for the better. So here we go. So I did all those things, and I got to the workplace there, and there was this real pretty lady working at in there, and she was in the lobby, and she came and met me, and there were some other guys I was working with. They had flown. Uh, our company had a plane, and we lived in different locations, so they flew company plane, and I flew commercial. And she said, "You must be with those other guys." And I said, "Yeah, I am." And she said, "Well, you're not working here. You're working at the other, the other location." So she gave me directions, and she's a real pretty lady and really friendly, very big smile and all this stuff. So I get down to the other location. I'm like, "Hey, we need to go over," because I did training and that kind of thing. So I said, "We need to go over there and do some training." And they're like, "No, we're not working over there." I'm like, "Oh, I think we should work over there." And they're like, "No, we're not working over there." Okay, so anyway, just kind of a normal day. The day ended. I was one of my buddies. Uh, at the end of the night, we were talking and hanging out, and I said, I told him a story that I prayed, and my life's going to change for the better. And I said, nothing really changed. I said, I do have a peace about me that I didn't have, but nothing really changed, right? So the next day I go to work, and a little later on that day, the lady that I had met at the other location, she's over here because she was very good at typing and very, very fast typist. So they wanted her to come over and do some data entry and that kind of thing. There she walks in. I'm like, oh wow, okay, here we go, you know. And if you hadn't figured it out, my life did change that day. I just didn't know it because I just met this girl one time. Said hi, how you doing? She sent me on her way. I always, she told me where to go. I always tell the story. She told me where to go that day, and she's been telling me where to go ever since. And but I didn't, that was our interaction. I didn't think there was anything to it, right? Next day, she's over there working with us. We talk a little bit, and the next day was Saturday. Okay, so I met her on Thursday. She came over to work Friday. We worked the weekend, so Saturday, and I asked her out Saturday night, and she wound up driving because she knew the area and stuff. So she drove around, and we was going to go to movies. We didn't do it. We just wound up talking the whole night, driving around. Her mama called. Her mama actually worked there too, and I'd met her mama. She was showing me pictures of the family and all this stuff, but her mama called that night. I was like, "What are you doing out with that guy? You don't even know him," and all that stuff. And I could hear her mama on the other end. But anyway, we went out another. I don't know. It seemed like we didn't see each other Sunday, but we saw each other, the next day, and went to Chili's. And later on, years later, we went back to Chili's for one of our anniversaries, and we tried to get our old booth back. It was kind of cool. But anyway, I remember on the way back from Chili's, she said to me, one of the sweetest things anybody's ever said to me. She said, "You're a breath of fresh air," and I was like, that just really made me feel cool. It really did. And so I wound up staying a couple of days extra. My boss was cool with it. Her boss was a little unsure about it, but she did let me stay. So I got to stay a little bit longer. And anyway, we wound up then just being, I'm probably leaving out some details because there's just so much to it, but we wound up just talking on the phone this was in April, okay? I met her in April and actually lost her in April, unfortunately. We met in April, and then 22 years later, she passed away in April. So I met her in April. I didn't get to see her again. It's April, May, June, July, August. Okay. She had this guy she had kind of been seeing, but he wasn't really in the picture a lot. She liked him and known him for a long time, but he was just he wasn't really there for her, right? So me and her wound up talking a lot on the phone. And I kept wondering, like, where's this guy at? How's she talking to him? She's talking to me most of the time, every night. We talked a lot. And so anyway, so I was kind of feeling good about that, but still, he was she would bring him up every once in a while and stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe we're just going to be friends, and that's it. And one night I was in Minnesota, okay, a long ways from her, and she didn't know where I was. I was at a Holiday Inn Express, and that's all she knew. But that night he kind of ditched her. He was like, we're through and all that stuff. And so she wanted me to know, and so that she was free, I guess. So she called every Holiday Inn Express in Minneapolis. I said Minnesota. Well, that's in Minnesota, but Minneapolis, Minnesota is a big town there. So anyway, she found me and called me, and it was like, this is so cool. So I went to see her in August. First time I'd seen her since April. We got engaged in October. Now I didn't live I was 7 hours from where she lived. So, and I traveled every other week for a week at a time. So I didn't get to see her much. But I met her. I saw her again in August. We got engaged in October, married in December. Now I don't recommend that to everybody, but it worked out. It really did. It was just a great time, and we had just a sweet. Sweet marriage and sweet, honeymoon, and just we had so much fun together and everything, and a good life. And so I've got 2 wonderful kids, and that she gave me. So I'm very thankful. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it for sure because this is the truth, all of it. And it was a sort of a fairy tale type thing, I guess, in a way, and it did happen quick. But at the same time, we were both, she was I think she was 29. I was 32. I turned 30. Our birthdays was in the same month in August, so we. I think she turned 29 that year, and I turned 33 that year. I think so. Yeah. So anyway, we just knew what we wanted. We'd been, praying about it, and we knew what kind of person we wanted, and we didn't have to think about it a whole lot. So anyway, we kind of made a quick decision, I guess, and got married quicker than maybe some people thought we should, but it's really not anybody's business. You got to do what's best for you. And again, I'm not saying I'd recommend that to everybody, but I've had friends that got married in 2 weeks. I had one guy that him and his wife, they got married in 2 weeks, and she unfortunately passed with cancer, but they'd been married for years and years and years. And that's really crazy to me. 2 weeks, but hey, they knew and it worked, and they obviously had a good marriage. And so anyway. Let me know about your story. I know I shortened it a little bit there, but I know it's still kind of long. But let me know how you met the love of your life. I'd love to hear it, and just share it in the comments. And if you'd want me to share your story, I'd be glad to, share how you met your one and only, or whatever you want to call it. And so anyway, appreciate y'all tuning in as always. If you could give us a thumbs up on this, subscribe to us if you would, and check out our other videos out there. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks.